Welcome to this YSL tutorial. In this video we're going to teach you all about how to write joins in SQL Server queries. The topics we'll cover in this session: we'll start with the basics of joins. We'll explain why you need to use a join in a query, help you to understand the structure of a database, and then show you how to write a simple inner join. The final part of that topic will be showing you how you can simply include more tables in your queries. We'll then move on and show you some other types of join. So we'll explain the outer join. We'll show you a use for that to find unmatched records in your database. We'll spend a little bit of time talking about how you tell your left from your right. And finally, we'll show you how to use a full outer join. So let's get started. When you're writing simple queries like this one, and all of the information you need is in one single table, then joins aren't necessary at all. If I execute this query, I can see all of the information contained in the film table, so the film name and release date, etc. Certain bits of information in this table, though, aren't quite as clear as they should be. For instance, when I get to the Director ID column, I can see the ID number of a director, but not any extra information about them. I can, of course, write a simple query to show me information from the Director table. But that's a little bit inconvenient, particularly if I have to use a where clause to find where the Director ID is equal to the number 4. If I execute this query, I can see all the extra details about Director number 4, but it'd be much more handy to be able to do that in one single query. And that's where joins come in. In order to work with joins properly, you really need to understand the structure of your database. So I'd like to understand how my film table is related to my Director table. And one technique for doing that is by looking at a database diagram. In my movies database, I have a database diagrams folder, and I've already created a diagram here called DGM Movies. If I switch to this tab, you'll be able to see it. So in this diagram, I can see that my Director table has a relationship to my film table. And if I hover the mouse over the relationship, it will tell me its name. It's not a very exciting name, but there you go. Now, I can't see much information about which fields are related here, but once I've found the name of my relationship, I can then drill down into my tables to find out a bit more information. So if I find the film table first and expand the keys folder, hopefully what you can see from this is that each relationship that this film table has is listed here. So it shows me the primary key is the film ID field, but also it shows me all of the foreign keys. So this is the one that I was just looking at here, the TBL film to TBL director. If I right click on this foreign key and choose modify, I'll get even more information about the relationship. So in this dialog box I can see a list of all the foreign keys. If I expand the tables and columns section over at the right hand side here, I can see that the primary key is the Director ID field from the Director table, and that's linked to a field in the film table called Film Director ID. Essentially all that tells me is that the values in this field in the film table are derived from this field in the Director table. But that's really all I need to know. With that information, I can now start writing joins. So my job in this query is to show a list of all the films and the names and other details of the directors who directed them. So the starting point is just another simple query, like the one shown here. Select everything from the film table. It's not necessary, but it will help. If you give tables an alias from this point on, in a previous video we talked about giving fields or columns an alias. Here we can give a table an alias to make it easier to refer to. So I'm going to call my film table F, which is a nice simple short name. On the next line down, I'm going to list the next table that I want to use, and that's going to be the Director table. But I can't just get away with, as in other examples when we're listing fields, I can't just get away with comma separating a list. What I need to do is I need to tell the query what type of join I'm going to use when I bring that next table in. For this example, we're going to be sticking with inner joins. I'm going to explain the different types of joins a little bit later on in this video, but for now we're going to use inner join. You can actually also get away with just writing the word join if you prefer, or if you're feeling a bit lazy. I always like to be a bit more explicit, so there we go, inner join. After you've listed the type of join, you can then list the name of the table, and that's nice and easy. It's TBL Director. And just as I did with my film table, I'm going to give it a nice, simple, short alias. one last piece of information that's required. I'm going to put this on a separate line here. One last piece of information that's required is to tell the query which two fields from those tables are joined together. And you do that by adding the word on and then list out the two fields. So here I'm going to say f.film director ID, and I'm going to say where that is equal to d.director ID. And if you remember from what we were just looking at in the relationships, those are the two fields which are joined together between the two tables, director ID to film director ID. So, with all of that information listed out now, if I execute this query, I'm going to see a list of all of the information, first of all from the film table, and if I scroll along to the right, I should then see all of the information from the director table. So I have a number of films by Steven Spielberg, and so on. So that's a basic inner join. Bringing in any extra tables now using inner joins is very straightforward, because it will follow exactly the same pattern as what we've done here with the director table. So the next job, for instance, perhaps I want to see which studio made a film. And if I refer back to my database diagram, I should be able to see that there's a relationship between studio and film, and the join there links between studio ID and film studio ID. So armed with that information, I can bring in yet another table in my select list, my from clause. So to do that, I need to specify what type of join it is. It's going to be an inner join again. Which table I want to bring in, TBL Studio. I'm going to give it a short alias to make it easier to refer to as S. And subsequently, I need to say what two fields are joined together. I've just identified those using my database diagram, so I know that it's Film Studio ID, and that will be equal to s.studio ID. If I execute my query now, I'm going to see even more information. So all the film information first, then the director information, and finally, towards the end, the studio information. And you can repeat that same pattern again and again and again to bring in any extra tables that you want. They all follow exactly the same sequence. The type of join, the name of the table, and the alias you want to use, and then the statement that specifies which two fields are joined together. And one last time, if I execute this query, I'll see yet more information at the end of the select list. At this point, it's probably worthwhile thinking about restricting which fields you see in the select list. So for instance, if I only want to see the film name, I can use the aliases for my tables now to make it slightly easier to type in the field, the select list. So f.filmname, d.directorname, we can have s.studioname, and finally c.countryname. And if I execute this query now, I get a nice subset of the information about my films. Inner joins are perfect when you want to see corresponding information in two different tables. So for instance, again in this example, we're looking at all of the directors' information and any films that those directors have made. But what if I wanted to do something slightly different? For instance, what if I wanted to see all of the directors who exist in the directors table but who have not directed a film? What I'm really trying to do is find any director IDs that have not been used in the film director ID field. This small diagram might help to explain what I'm trying to do. In a normal query that uses an inner join, you can think of each table appearing as part of this Venn diagram. So I've listed the directors table first, and then I've listed the film table using an inner join. Each of the circles represents all of the data that that table contains. And when you use an inner join, what you really see is the overlapping part of those circles, the inner part. So that includes directors from the director table who have a corresponding value in the film table. For this example, what I really want to see is first of all of the information from the directors table. And in order to do that, I need to use what's referred to as a left outer join. Changing my inner join into a left outer join is actually very simple. All I need to do is change the word inner to the two words left outer. And before I execute this query, have a quick look at how many records have been returned. I've got 260 rows when it was an inner join. If I execute the query now, I have 265 records. So that must mean switching to a left outer join has included extra data that was not there before. It's not that easy to see because at the moment I'm showing all of the data that was there already, plus my extra records, and in fact I've already spotted one there. Ethan Cohen has no information next to the film fields. What I'd really like to do is eliminate all of the records that I saw earlier on, and one simple straightforward way to do that is to add a where clause to show me any information where any field from the film table is null. So any director who has not directed a film will have no information in the film table. If I execute this query now, you can see there are 5 directors who exist in the director table but do not exist with a corresponding value in the film table. So that's the left outer join. The reason it's a left outer join, by the way, is because I've listed my directors table first. If I imagine the way SQL interprets this query, it doesn't really care about the different line breaks that I've added in to make my query easier to read. It reads the entire statement as one single sentence. So because I've listed the director table first, that appears at the left-hand side of the sentence. And because I want to get all of the information from that table, I'm using a left outer join. You can, just like we saw with the inner join, you can omit the word inner. With an outer join, you can actually omit the word outer. You can simply use left. When you write join code, it doesn't necessarily have to involve 2 tables that have a relationship in the database. For instance, as another example, perhaps I'm interested in what relationship exists between directors and actors. Now in my database there's no direct relationship between the director and actor tables. But in the real world I might be interested in finding out, are there any directors who have also been actors? Or are there any actors who have never been a director? And other combinations. I can describe that probably more clearly in Venn diagram terms. So in this diagram I'm going to use the actor table and the director table, and the 3 different things I might be interested in seeing are, first of all, the inner part, the part we already know, so that would show me all the actors who have also a corresponding record in the director table. I might also be interested in just the actors, so the people who have only ever been an actor and not a director, so in this case that would be the left outer join. And then one final type of join that we haven't seen yet, I could also see all the directors who have never been actors, and that would be the right outer join. So let's quickly create all those 3 examples. So to begin with, I've listed all of the information from the actor table and given that table a quick alias. To bring in information from the director table, the first thing I'm going to do is show values, records from both tables where there's a matching value, so people who have been both actors and directors. And to do that I need to use an inner join to TBL director as D. I also have to say, of course, which fields are joined. So I'm going to say on a dot actor name. My tables in my database, the actor ID and the director ID, don't match up, but the names will. So if I look for where the actor name is equal to the director name and execute this query, I'll see a list of the apparently 7 people who in my database have been both an actor and a director. The next step might be then to see, well, what if I want to find all the people who have only been actors and not directors? We've already seen the way to do that. I can use the left outer join. Left outer join because I've listed the actor table first, so it appears at the left-hand side of the sentence, and I want to see all of the information from that table. If I execute this query, I'm going to see all of the actors. Next to some of my actors, I'm going to see their details if they already exist in the director table as well. So it might be useful at this point to exclude those using a simple where clause. So I can look for anything in the director table is null. And if I execute that query now, I'm seeing a list of people who have only been actors. To get the opposite of that, if you like, to get the people who have only ever been a director, there's two techniques I could use. I could change the order I've listed my tables, so list the director table first, and use a left outer join to the table actor. But it's far more convenient in this example to simply change the word left to the word right. I can then modify my where clause to ensure that I'm only getting the people who have been directors, and when I execute this query, that's what I'll see. I guess there's one final simple thing that we can do here. What if I wanted to see all of the information from both tables? So all of the actors, all of the directors, and all of the people who have been both. With one simple little tweak, if I take away my where clause first, I simply need to change the word right into the word full. So this will show me all of the information from both tables. So at the moment, showing just the directors, I have 114 records. If I execute this query, I now get every piece of information from both tables. All of the actors, all of the directors, and floating around in between, all of the people who have been both. If you've enjoyed this training video, you can find many more online training resources at www.wiseowl.co.uk.